Good morning, Dmitry here, and today I wanted to talk about my latest full-frame camera. Here it is, Canon EOS RP. You see it with the 35mm lens, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the best lens for this camera. Those two are meant for each other. I have a few other cameras, and why RP? This is the camera that, upon its release, it appears that most reviews were bashing the camera left and right. The key for me initially was this unique combination. The 35, I love that focal length. It's perfect if you want to go out at night, social settings, and just overall 35 is a beautiful focal length that I use all the time. In this particular camera, the 35 that they made is very small, and it's very light, and it's not pocketable, but it's just such a small combination, and its weight distribution is just perfect. So let's talk about EOS R briefly. Price $12.99. They get the camera, you get a little grip in three different sizes, three different colors: blue, red, and black. And you get the free adapter for EF mount. That's reasonable for a camera with a full frame sensor. I like the ergonomics, even though it's plasticky, but it has a full-size grip, unlike some of the other cameras, Fuji X-T3. The grip is actually more comfortable than the one for Sony. My problem with the Sony grip is not as much size, but the fact that with lenses, there's not much room here for your fingers in between the grip and the lenses. Here, that the way that they made it straight, you can see that there's plenty of size, plenty of room for your hands, at least with this lens, 35-1.8. And the ergonomics overall are okay. I mean, I don't like the fact that the Canon has on-off button on the other side. I think the easiest way to do it, like, Nikon does it right on the button. It's the easier, so you don't need to use two hands. I do like the wheel, the selection wheel for POSM, where you can set the mode. Better than what you have in EOS R, when you have to look on the display and then scroll a wheel. To me, this is easier and faster. I don't like the fact that the card is together with the battery, but that's true for all cheap cameras. I don't like the fact that this EOS RP only goes to 1/4000th of a second, as opposed to 1 to 8,000ths, which is what more expensive cameras have. But 1/4000th, that's something that cheap cameras, or cheaper cameras, I like to say, are, usually would feature 1/4000th of a second. Further problem with the EOS R, and this could be a deal breaker for some people, is that it appears that the EOS R has electronic first shutter fixed on. It's on all the time, and you cannot turn it off. What that means is that if you like to shoot with high-speed synchronization outside, and you go up to 1/2000ths, 1/3200, 1/4000 of a second, you will not be able to turn off electronic first shutter, which, if you use external flash, you will start seeing bending on your shots, and that is something that could be a deal breaker for some people, but for those who don't do a lot of high-speed synchronization shooting with external flashes outside, that would not be a problem. Why Canon did it this way, I don't understand. Also, it's not clear to me whether they can fix it by firmware or not. But as of right now, your electronic first shutter is always on. It's fixed in that position, and that's how EOS RP operates. Or also the silent shooting, forget about it. It's just a mode, a scene mode. You can't change any of the, it's like auto scene mode. You cannot change your aperture and your shutter speed, and rolling shutter is pretty bad. And it's basically not a camera that you want to use silent shutter with, period. Next minus is the fact that the continuous autofocus tracking is not great. And I tried birds in flight. I tried with 400 millimeter 5.6L lens that I have, an adapter, and it was just not that great. It was bad, basically, in terms of tracking. The initial focus acquisition was so slow. By the time I would try to acquire focus, the bird would already fly. And I tried every possible tracking mode and configuration in the menu, and there was no change. So this is not a camera that I would use to track anything. Basically, this is for things that are still or things that are moved very, very slowly. With that in mind, face detection works great. Eye detection works good if your subject is not far from you. The camera finds focus in very, very low light. As I said, it's EV -5 rated camera with the lenses that are f1.2, which means with my 35-1.8 it's probably EV -4, which is still tops, basically in low light. It'll find your subject in really, really low light. The image quality, even though the noise is not as low light noise is not as low as in something like A9 or A7 III or A7R III or Nikon Z6, it is still much, much better than anything from APS-C. And I can say it with authority because I've used it next to Fuji X-T3, the newest Sony a6400 in low light, and this camera is clearly better when it comes to noise performance to those APS-C sensors. Clearly, to my eye, like significantly better. So full frame camera has its benefits over APS-C size camera when it comes to noise. With my Fuji X-T3, when it comes to ISO 6400 and even sometimes below that, the picture just falls apart. It's true. A6400 is slightly better, but you can see it's an APS-C sensor and you're pushing the limits. Here, 6400 and 12,800, I'm talking about real life conditions, not test charts. It performs very, very good. In JPEGs, the colors are just gorgeous out of the Canon. You know, people talk about the Canon colors, they're beautiful. I mean, maybe not everybody likes them, but for people that do like them, and it's a lot of those people, the colors that come out of the camera are just beautiful. You know, just beautiful colors. And I'm talking about skin tones and things such as you know, reds and you know, yellows and blues. Just gorgeous, which are perfect for people that don't want to spend a lot of time on working on their pictures afterwards. The next thing I want to talk about is the battery life. The battery life sucks. It's not great. It's on kind of low, so I bought 3 extra batteries. So far, I can usually finish my day with 2 batteries, but I have 4. And if you use Bluetooth option, which basically you can set it up that anytime you take a picture, that will send a picture to your camera, to your phone, and that will eat, obviously they'll eat more of a battery. So Battery life is not great, so just carry extra battery. I don't mind. I love it. I don't know how to explain it, but I do. I love this camera. And the testament to my love for this camera is that since I had it, you know, I have a choice of a lot of different cameras to take with me, but a lot of times when I go somewhere socially, that's the camera I pick up with this lens, the 35. It's the size, the weight distribution, the performance. It's just so small. I mean, there is Sony RX1, which with even smaller, but the autofocus on RX1 is just not that great. And I recommend EOS RP if you don't have issues with things that I said, such as you know, tracking or low battery life, or shooting with high-speed synchronization. If you don't have those issues, then this could be a nice little camera for you, and also inexpensive when it comes to full-frame cameras. At least with this particular lens, with the 35. Now, you can also adopt EF lenses, such as, for example, I adopted the 50 1.8. Okay, so here's the 50 STM, and if you add an adapter, here's the size. This is basically, you're talking about the same size as the 35, which is pretty small. When I say small, it's definitely smaller than Nikon Z6 with its native 50. Let me compare the sizes for you. This is Nikon Z6 with a native 50. So no adapters here. And here's a Canon EOS RP with the Canon adapter and 50 1.8 STM. So as you can see, Canon lens and adapter together are smaller and lighter than Nikon's native 50. See how small it is? Now let's do the 85 comparison. So here's Canon 85 L2 on the top of the adapter on EOS RP. Does that look kind of big? Yeah, it looks big, but this is why you were sold that little grip which you attach. And now it's much easier to hold. But in terms of the size, this is how it looks like. So let's compare it to a Sony A9 with a Sony 85G Master. That's a native lens, right? And it's a 1.4 on a Sony. So let's compare it in size to RP with the 85 1.2 on an adapter. It's pretty much exactly the same. So I got the 85 1.2, which is a brighter lens, plus adapter, and it still is, well, it's just a little bit longer than the G Master. So not that much different when it comes to size. So whatever Canon is doing, they're able to make lenses, or even with an adapter and a camera, the size is even smaller than the comparable Nikon or Sony. Now, of course, there is a huge native lenses for RF mount such as 28 to 70, which is just gigantic, but I don't have it to compare to anything that anybody else makes. But other than that, I'm curious to see how big the native 85 will be. Something tells me that the native 85 1.2 will be actually smaller than the Sony 85 G Master. The Nikon lenses are all kind of, they're 1/8, but for some reason they made them kind of long and big. Not sure why, but that's just the way that they're made. Do I recommend it? I like the EOS RP. I recommend it as long as you understand what you're getting, what you're not getting. It's a fun camera to take with you everywhere. You're gonna enjoy the picture quality, and you're gonna enjoy the fact that you're carrying a very, very small camera with you everywhere. It's a liberating feeling that you have this feeling that you still have this full frame camera in your hands, yet it is so small that carrying it is the same as carrying as APS-C or even a Micro Four Third camera. It's small, but at the same time, the grip is very comfortable, and it's an enjoyable camera to take with you. I think it's hard to understand by looking at the specs, but if you have a chance to go to a store and handle it or to rent it, you will understand what I say. It's a fun camera to take with you, and as I said, especially with the 35 video. I posted a video that I took with it when I went on vacation. It's the last video before this one. I did 1080/60 video because the 4K, there is no dual pixel autofocus in 4K, so the 4K video performance sucks. So you already know that. The 1080 is fine, the 4K sucks on it. So that's another problem. That's how Canon cripples their cameras. So if that's something that is extremely important to you, the 4K autofocus is important to you, that's not a camera for you. But it is a camera for me. Thank you very much. Subscribe to my channel. And then if you have any comments, please let me know and I'll try to answer them.